who is going to share her knowledge and her studies with us. Thank you. God bless all of us. And Kiki, you have the floor. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you. Um, and I think we read the chapter and then I comment about that, right? Awesome. Okay, so I do have here the chapter from, oops, is this here? Yeah. So we have here. Let me just, yeah. So I do have here the chapter 67 for the book Life Spring from Chico Xavier, written by Emmanuel. And I promise I won't bother anyone, but it's gonna be as all Emmanuel books. This is a very short chapter, and I would like to invite us for a couple of other thoughts. So it's about inner renewal. I will start reading, but if anyone wants to jump in and read as well, please feel free to do so. But here, Emmanuel starts with a saying from Paul. So be renewed in the spirit of your mind. So human beings have used reasoning for many centuries, hitting rules that are practically unchanging and comparing external events according to old process of observation. They run their physical lives making great transformations in the area of fundamental organic procedures, and they use speech like someone using the elements that are indispensable for building a construction of stone, sand, and lime. And we all know that, right? Like all of us are so ready always to speak about our own opinions, not only about our lives, but also about others. And within the arena of exterior nature per se, modifications in any aspect of it have been minimal, except for the great progress related to the techniques of science and industry. In the arena of the sentiments, however, the changes have been profound. So, not necessarily as advanced as we did for science and industry, but it's been very profound in terms of how we are changing who we are. And he continues, amongst highly educated peoples, no one tolerates the slavery of their fellow beings. No one plays with another's life with impunity, and no one applauds systematic and deliberate cruelty as they used to. Through the heart, the ideal of humanity has been purifying the mind in all climes of the planet. The home and the school, the place of worship and hospitals, the institutions of social security and charity are creations of sensibility and not of calculation. Workers may display lofty qualities of intelligence and skill, but if they are not devoted to their work, they will continue to be merely conscious, repetitive pieces of equipment, just as the stomach has been a machine of digestion for millennia. Meaning, he's inviting us to think that for many, many centuries, we've been evolving our intellect just as machines, but at some point, and gladly we are already in this in the path to the world of regeneration, we are also being able to regenerate our emotions by evolving the way that we see, the way that we feel. So he continues, only through inner renewal does the soul progress on the road to a perfect life. Before Christ, thousands of men and women died on crosses. However, the Master's cross became an indistinguishable light due to the quality of the sentiments with which the crucified one handed himself over the death, thus influencing the quality of sentiments of nations and centuries. And one very specific thing that I always like to remind us is that in the moment that Christ was in the cross, he said, God, forgive them, for they don't know what they are doing. So he was above the offense. It's not that Jesus said, I forgive you because you are still ignorant and I can understand you. He was above that. He said, God forgive them because they don't know what they are doing. So this is already showing us how much Jesus Christ is living everything that he taught until that moment. Growing in goodness and understanding means extending the vision and sanctifying the objectives of society. Jesus came to us to teach us that love, more than anything else, is the way to the abundant life. And only the sentence itself is already something for us to discuss days and days because it's not easy for us to love. I mean, it's easy for us to love someone that is dear to us. But what about all of those brothers and sisters who are just giving us a very hard time? How do we love them? How do we forgive them? How do we keep up with very tough situations? And this is exactly how Emmanuel continues. Have you lived amidst pain, affliction, darkness, or infirmity? Then renew your sentiments in accordance with the standards of the gospel, and you will see the divine purpose of life acting everywhere with justice and mercy, wisdom and understanding. And in the book Thought and Life, also from Emmanuel through Chico Xavier, Emmanuel tells us that understanding is the very first step for us to renew who we are. So he is inviting us to think about inner renewal. He's inviting us to think about not only about who we are, but most importantly, who we want to be. And this is what I wanted to bring for our reflections. Let me see. Can you all see my PowerPoint?
Not yet, not PowerPoint. We still see the, I believe, PDF.
Let me do this then. Can you see now?
Yeah. Yes, we can see.
Awesome, thanks. So coming back to the statement that Emmanuel brought to us, only through inner renewal does the soul progress on the road to a perfect life. And we know that being perfect in this realm doesn't necessarily mean to be completely happy, but mostly to be at peace. So how do we find that? And if we are all here, we are already somehow looking for this renewal. So I brought a couple of questions for us to think and reflect together. How to know if we are in the right path in our inner renewal? So I brought a couple of questions from the Spirit's book, part 3, chapter 1. How can we distinguish between good and evil? How can we know what is right or what is wrong? If what we are doing is right, of course, any of us does things, or usually we do not want to do things knowing that that's wrong. We do things with the best of our intentions, but sometimes they are just not good. So how do we know if what we are doing is good or bad? Well, the answer is good complies with God's law, and weakness diverges from it. Therefore, to do right is to comply with God's law, and to do wrong is to violate the law. As simple as that. But then there's a question, just a couple of questions before this one, which says, where is written the God's law? How can we know about that? And then the answer is that God's law is written in our conscience. So every time that we are doing something that we're like, I don't know if this sounds really correct, reflect twice, friends. This is an invitation from ourselves to ourselves as a gift for us to reflect twice. And even if our action is good, reflect on the intention. Sometimes the intention behind our actions are not the most purified ones. And this is a sign that we can renew something. So then they continue. Do humans have means to distinguish good from evil, right from wrong? Yes, when they believe in God and truly wish to do what is right, God has given human beings intelligence to distinguish between them. And this connects to what we just read from Emmanuel. We've been progressing way more thinking about our intellect. So we as human, we've been evolving our intellectual intelligence towards the evolution of the science, towards the evolution of the industry, looking for our comfort, and it's been amazing. But how have we been evolving our morals? How have we been connected with the management of our emotions? There's this new buzzword, emotional intelligence. How are we being able to manage our own emotions and manipulate them in our favor so that instead of reacting to something, we can reflect and respond? And there is a fine line between that. The fine line is on the serenity that we hold for us to be able to hear from our higher self how to respond to a situation so then we don't regret. As humans are subject to error, can they mistake in their judgment of good or and evil? As we were just saying, sometimes our intentions are good, but we just make something that is not good. Can they believe to be doing right when in reality they are doing wrong? Jesus said, "Do unto others whatever you would have them to do unto you." That sums up everything. You will never go wrong. So friends, the invitation here for us to start this renewal is to put ourselves in the shoes of our brothers and sisters, no matter who they are. As we were just saying, it's easy for us to love someone that is lovely. How hard it is for us to love someone that just gives us a hard time. Why are those people giving us a hard time? What is going on in their lives that are make them to hurt us as they are or as they had done? So this is something for us to reflect. The other thing is, once we know which are the things that we want to change, how do we do that change? How do we transform? And then I will point us to the Gospel according to Spiritism. And I will remind us about at least the Beatitudes that Jesus invites us to think about. Blessed are the afflicted. How often are we resigning to God? And let us remember that resign is different from being obedient. We are obedient when we do what we have to do. But when we resign, we just allow from the heart. We accept. We allow things to happen. And we give to God something that is out of our control. Blessed are the pure in spirit. It's reminding us to be humble. Sometimes we just create expectations, not only towards others, but also towards life. And we don't even realize that we are expecting God to do exactly how we are expecting in our time, the way that we want. Let us humble ourselves. We are here to learn. We are here to progress. Blessed are the pure of heart. How can we be just and stop making judgments about the others? How can we just carry what is really necessary in terms of emotions? How much more do we have to hurt each other for us to understand that we are all brothers and sisters? And I'm saying that gladly in a very good situation. But I'm inviting all of us to think, whenever we find someone that is not in a good situation, that had suffered whatever situation, do we want to be the light in the darkness as we usually pray for? Blessed are the meek and the peacemakers. How are we able to keep the serenity inside of our heart? So then again, we can respond instead of react. These are going to help us to renew who we are. And blessed are the merciful, to help us to forgive. And again, as I mentioned, this is not an easy task. This is definitely not an easy task to forgive. But then Emmanuel, he reminds us in the book Thought and Life, chapter 2, will is the decisive factor for our progress. The will is the enlightened and vigilant manager that supervises all sectors of our mental activities. Of course, it cannot stop mental reflections whenever these are produced by contacts with others, because attunement is an unbreakable law. Here's a good reminder for us to keep looking and watching out for our thoughts. However, the will can impose disciplinary control over the elements it governs, so as to maintain them cohesive in the service of goodness. And I remember once a mentor told us that will is our strongest power and pray is our strongest resource. So friends, as Chico Xavier said, we cannot change anything that happened in the past. But if we decide, we can change who we want to be in the future. And there is a beautiful thing from St. Augustine. He invites us on the gospel to do the nightly review. So how to know if I am going to the right path and if I'm being able to do as Jesus is telling us. Every night before we go to sleep, let us reflect on our day. What happened during this day? Which are the thoughts that I had? Which are the emotions that I felt? Is there something that I can change, that I can do better? Is there more patience that I can bring to my life? Is there more forgiveness? Is there anything that I can do for me to be more serene with myself? Do I have to forgive myself for something that happened in the past? Am I feeling hurt about someone? Am I feeling guilty? How do I change that? Those are lifetime journeys. We are not talking about at the end of this 20 minutes, but we are talking about how can we share with each other and find strength for us to be the renewal that we are expecting from our life. And then the last piece that I wanted to bring is, how do we support others in this journey? Because sometimes we just feel like, no, Kiki, I'm okay, I'm feeling fine, I'm in peace, I don't have troubles, my life is all right, perfect. How can we extend a helping hand to others? First thing is to work on ourselves, right? We have to be extremely sure that we are in peace and we have nothing for us to work, which I highly doubt with all the humbleness that I have. But St. Francis of Assisi said something: preach the gospel all the time. Use words only when necessary. And why is that? Because very often, because we are in peace, the problem of the other person seems so small to us that we tend to tell them, you don't have to worry about that. Hey, you know what? Just forgive about it. It's gonna be simple. Not always. Not always is like that. Each one of us has your own problems, and they are the size that we give to them. And it's not up to us to make it smaller or bigger. For us, we have to resign, to be humble, to be just, to be serene, and to forgive. So how do we make sure that we are living the gospel? That we are the ones being the example, just as Jesus was? he didn't write the Bible, he lived the Bible. And then gladly, because of the apostles, we are able to learn about that. But most importantly, we are able to love as Jesus did. He taught us, love God above all things and your neighbor as yourself. So this is the invitation for us. And then once we are comfortable living those beatitudes and living this beautiful invitation of learning how to love, then Emmanuel also invites us to think about what love means. Love is the silent hope of heaven, awaiting the evolution of all principles, while respecting the decision of all consciences. So, what is he telling us? First, that we are not alone, that the whole heaven is helping us in each and every situation that we encounter. And I remember in the book Maria de Nazareth, I remember it was written by Mirames, psychographed by João Nunes Maia. An amazing book telling the story of Mother Mary and how she incarnated. But one of the things that he tells us is whenever you are in need of some support, close your eyes, look up to the sky, and whenever you see a star, remember that there are a lot of people in there hoping that you can overcome whatever you are going through, and you are not alone. So this is the silent hope of heaven. And the heaven is awaiting for the evolution of our principles, meaning the evolution of the moral that we are transforming. So if we are in this path to transform who we are in this path of evolving our moral principles. And they are just there waiting and supporting us in this evolution. And at the same time, respecting our decision. Because as we just saw, God granted us with intelligence for us to be able to differ right from wrong. So it's going to be up to us. Again, there's nothing we can do to change the past, but there is definitely something that we can do to change the future. And that's on us. That's totally on us. And I think that this is what I wanted to share. And I'm happy if we can just discuss about what we just saw. If anyone wants to share how it's been this process of inner renewal, and just open the floor for us to discuss.
Thank you, Kiki. Let me just turn off the AC, but it's interesting what you said. We were studying the preface of the book, Nosso Lar, so Astral City, just before you joined in. Mm-hmm. And I think that us kind of a detaching from our ego and learning to live as a good person is really the opportunity that we have here that sometimes we forget. Paying attention to, only the temporary material stuff and forgetting that we are eternal spirits. Thank you for sharing with us tonight.
Yeah, and one very interesting thing, Anna, is that if we think about our evolution, and this we can find on the Genesis, and also in Heaven and Hell, that is Allan Kardec speaks a lot about our evolution and how we as beings are evolving. It's part of our nature to carry ego, right? Like God granted us ego for us to be able to survive. However, because of our attachments, as exactly what you're saying, we kind of went to the other extreme of the ego.
Mhm.
And then this just became pride out of something that is not necessary that we need for our evolution. So now we have to reverse that and then go, we have to shape our instincts to our moral evolution. So definitely encountering all the situations that we've been encountering, it's tough. We're not saying that it's fine. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm healthy in my house. I just had dinner, and by the way, I'm Central Time now. um,
It's true.
yeah, I moved to Arkansas actually. So things change, and again, it's going to not always we get to choose how our life is gonna turn, right? So it's really up to us to decide how do we want to respond, how do we want to position ourselves according to Jesus' lessons and all the guidance from the spirits. So
Yeah. The
The two things I took, it's kind of the gospel, it's kind of our map, right, for our inner reform. And the universe, the love that the universe has for us is our battery, right? So it's what needs to keep us going and giving us the strength to continue in the pursuit of our inner reform. So very beautiful. Thank you.
of course, thank you. Bruce, you have a question?
so
Kiki, that was possibly the most profound presentation I have ever listened to. Being a 73-year-old priest and monk most of my life, I would like to share just a few things to cap your words off. My favorite sentence in the whole Christian Bible is by St. Paul. And his one sentence is, I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. If this be done, all that you have said will become very clear. At 25 years old, I left the Roman Catholic Church and became a student of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. His work is much more telepathic in essence. My career as a spiritual director, you learn discernment very, very fast. And telepathy is not something that is impossible. It's something that the spirits use every day. They no longer speak in words. It is transmitted completely and wholly in reality and purity. But Kiki, thank you. I think you have been exceptional in your presentation, and I, for one, appreciate it very much.
Amen. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you for sharing. And exactly, this is beautiful. And this is a beautiful type of mediumship, right? Like when we see the evolution of the mediumship right now, we don't necessarily need to have the ostensive reactions as we used to have in the past. But now it's more on influence. And we should be really careful with the influences that we receive because we have all of them. So, how do we manage to take care of our feelings and our emotions? Because as we read in the Spirit's book, the law of attunement is something that is unbreakable. So it's up to us to decide who we invite in, right?
thank you, Kiki. So um, we're gonna now go for our passes. We do a spiritual passes, so we know with Andrea Luiz, with Kardec, with what Kiki just said, that with our thoughts, we basically connect with all the beings that are part of the universe. And in this moment, we close our eyes, we take a deep breath, bringing the love of God inside ourselves, being grateful for the opportunity of being here today. We know that our lives are the opportunity for us to work through our mistakes from the past. Many times, mistakes that were not done in this life, mistakes we do not remember, mistakes that we are not even aware of. But we know, as Chico Xavier already said, that every time that we are suffering, that means that we are quitting our debt with the universal law. That means that we are basically repairing the wrongdoings we did in the past. Therefore, we should be grateful because we are becoming free. And in this moment, we know that all of us are going through different challenges in life. And why many times we cannot change those challenges. We can change the way that we face them. And we can always ask for help. Help from the superior spirits to give us hope, to believe in a better future for us, to give us strength so we can bear all the challenges with a smile in our faces and peace in our hearts. We can ask for patience so we can live every day the best way we can, confident that we are never alone, that we have always help around us. We can ask God to hold our hands in this moment, sharing all his love for us, giving us a big hug, transferring all the energy that we need to continue our commitment to do the best we can in the material realm while we are here. We know the day that we are born, that we were born, but we don't know the day and time that we leave. So we ask God today that we may take the best opportunity to learn, to progress, to become better people. May we forget our ego, our titles, our names, just like St. Paul did. He who was the master of the masters, the one that was appointed to go after all the Christians, a man who knew very well his words, the Old Testament, the scriptures, the law of Judaism at that time, but didn't understand love. He didn't understand love until he met Jesus and asked, Saul, why are you going after me? Why are you doing this? And that moment, in that encounter, Saul reevaluates who he was. He wasn't the rich man. He wasn't the man of law. He wasn't the one who managed all the scriptures and had the power to move all the military forces. He was a man in mistake, who was going on the wrong direction, and who had decided to transform himself. So today, God, we ask you that we forget our names, our titles, our past. That we can come here as simple, as children, craving for your love, for your understanding, embracing the adventure of renewing ourselves, of becoming better men and women, better people, doing to others what we would like others to do to us. As Saint Francis Assisi said, preaching all the time, but only rarely using our words, meaning living every day all the teachings that you left us. May we carry your love everywhere we go. May we shine your light, your love, with everyone we talk. May everyone feel your presence to us. Bless our lives, dear God. You know our vices, our limitations, our fears. Take care of all of that. We don't need them. Give us strength, love, courage, patience to live a good life, not only for us, but for all of those who are around us. Bless our families, our households. Bless those who could not come here tonight. All the spirits that have joined. Bless Kiki with our gratitude of being here. And finally, bless our center. May this small place be always a sanctuary of your love for all of those who look for life. Amen. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Kiki, for being with us tonight.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for
Everyone,
the
have a good night.